Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. You know, the other day I was experimenting with melting salt to use a salt bath for heat treating metal, and I encountered an interesting chemical reaction. I just had this old iron crucible about half full of rock salt, and I may have had some trace quantities of aluminum in it from past use of this crucible for melting aluminum. And then I threw just a scrap piece of brass in there to see if I could heat it up with the salt bath, and something caught on fire. I definitely had metal combusting down in the crucible, whether it was the aluminum or the brass, I don't know. It was an unexpected reaction. And so today I thought I would try and just reproduce the reaction to see if we can figure out maybe what's going on here. So I've got the same iron crucible. Going to fill it up with my ice melter rock salt, which is what I was using before. Going to have some scrap pieces of aluminum in the crucible along with the salt, and then once it gets molten we will add some scraps of brass and see if we get the same reaction. Well, I'd say that's definitely molten. Now let's add the brass and see what happens. So something in there is definitely burning. And as it cools off, it seems to be slowing down, so maybe I should put it back in the fire to reheat a little bit. Okay, this time let's try pouring it out on the ground and see if we can see more of what's happening in there. And I'm thinking I saw a whole lot of nothing. I mean, we can see obviously the salt was liquid, the aluminum still is liquid, the brass more or less was solid still, although I'm only seeing one of the cases that I put in there rather than all of them, so maybe some of them dissolved or reacted or something. Well, I'm afraid this experiment was inconclusive at best, and I've got other work I need to get done today, so I'm going to have to stop here for now. I'm still really not sure what's going on. My first hypothesis would be that the molten sodium chloride destabilizes the oxide layer that would normally passivate the aluminum, and so what we're seeing is a rapid oxidation of the aluminum, probably catalyzed or exacerbated by the galvanic potential between the brass and the aluminum. If that's the case, though, then that's kind of problematic for any kind of heat treatment that I might do with a salt bath, because the whole idea of a salt bath would be to heat up the steel or whatever I'm heat treating without exposing it to oxygen, And if the aluminum is able to oxidize under molten salt, then there must be some way that the oxygen is getting down there, whether it's just diffusing through the salt or whether the salt is leaching it out of the iron oxides on the edge of the crucible, or what. So I really don't know what to do next with this. I guess I will say that at a couple of times there, as I was handling that crucible, I caught a whiff of something that smelled an awful lot like chlorine. So maybe the salt is actually not an inert component after all. Maybe there's actually some kind of a reaction going on there, although I'm really not sure what sodium chloride would react with per se, since sodium is a lot more active than either aluminum or steel or brass. But anyway, I think I'm done for today. I know that there's a lot of other channels on YouTube that sort of capitalize on these kinds of science experiments and figuring out what's going on there. So if you know of anyone who might be able to shed some light on this, feel free to share this video with them. Maybe the greater YouTube community can come to the rescue and figure out exactly what this reaction is. And in the meantime, thanks for watching the Idahoan Show.